Hi, and welcome back to Bots and Beyond. Now, this is an extra special episode, not just because of the fantastic guests that we have on, but it's the first time we're doing the episode recording on video. And so I was just saying to Doug, who's our guest, who I'll introduce very shortly, how strange this feels. 3 years of Bots and Beyond and the first time we're actually going to be on video. So if you are listening to this, and we talk too much about what we can see, then I can only apologize. But this will be available on LinkedIn at some point, as well as your favorite podcatcher. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome this week's guest, Mr. Doug Shannon, who is an intelligent automation leader and somebody I met through social media. So he's a social media extraordinaire as well, and expert Lego builder by the looks of his background. So hey, Doug.
Hey, Wayne, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the invite and look forward to the conversation.
No worries. No, absolutely. Really look forward to this. And it's interesting because I was just saying that the difference with recording is now I can see your background and what a busy background it is. So anything and everything from UiPath bots to Lego and Thor's hammer. And I think maybe we should talk about UiPath shortly, because of course you have recently been to Forward. So it'd be good to get your take on that. But as is standard, regardless of whether it's on video or podcast, for our guests, we usually do an introduction of who you are, what you do, and more importantly, why you do it.
Yeah, so Doug Shannon, 20 years of IT, rolling into the automation space from a QA kind of background in that regard. And so the IT side has really helped me drive the wins that I've seen and the ROI building that I've been able to build out, and really all the stuff that I put on social media. That IT background has helped me really drive the understanding of how to triage it, how to build that out. And so in general, like automation has been something that I've been able to take up very quickly and done so for the past 5 or more years, and it's been an amazing journey. And just seeing where it's growing, from RPA to automation to intelligent automation to now involving AI and generative AI into it, it's pretty fantastic.
That's great, mate. I mean, you clearly got lots of experience. I took out of there the kind of IT background. I guess let's delve into your background a little bit more, and then let's use that then as a bit of a basis for at least some of those social media posts, because I know there's some cool stuff you've been posting out recently that I'd really like to dig into. So, what is it that you're doing now as a kind of intelligent automation leader? And talk to us about that journey that you've made through various different roles of, I guess, over the last 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years is a long time, right? So starting off just dabbling with computers, or even when I was younger, I like messing with the Commodore 64, driving that up to just having the passion behind computers and what that can lead me to do. Starting off really as like a help desk, and then ended up running my own help desk through like the Department of Defense in the United States here, and then moving that into more of quality roles or design level roles, even then, because I was working with the design teams on how to not really embolden, but overall drive the distribution of different operating systems throughout 100,000 person companies. And so all the different nuances that go into that with the integration side of that, and then moving from there into mergers and acquisitions and driving that for companies like Cisco, and doing that all over the world, which was fantastic, because you get to see all the new startups, you get to see all the new technology, not only just the networking side, but even just all the integrations that go into it, just even the integrations of teams. And so when it comes down to that background of IT, what it really is understanding the customer side from that help desk, understanding the integration side of how the nuance of that moves, where those pitfalls are, how a project can move, shape, or fail, and how to fail fast and move forward with it, all the way into dealing with like the mergers and acquisitions, or later on working for like E&J Gallo, where they're one of the largest wineries in the world, and the distribution side of that is insane, because it's so much that just seeing how that the inner workings of that, and being able to do quality and controls of that, and then starting off the RPA and the automation career and saying, like, how do we do that same quality or same testing or same IT centric kind of maneuvers in an automated way? And so that really drove to using all of my background to really drive that consensus of like, where do we go now, and how do I talk to leaders, and in talking to leaders at different levels, like, do we need to talk technical? Do we need to talk on a very more basis level to understand like where are we coming from? Where's that grassroots? And then where are we moving towards? And so that has tended to help out a lot, because with new technology comes new questions and new understandings. And so I've been able to really deftly define and provide perspectives and insights.
Superb. Interestingly, you have come from the IT side of the house, and I recall my early days of using RPA, and my background is mainly operational. We both ended up in the same place, but from very different places. And again, while you were doing service desk, I was running customer service, kind of the front office stuff, digitizing all of that. Yeah. And I remember very few people in IT in those early days who would look at RPA and in the main intelligent automation and have anything good to say. What was it about intelligent automation then, thinking about your background, that where you said no code, low code's the way, not traditional BPM, or we'll utilize existing systems and just build out capability on them, which was the way of IT historically. What do you think was different? What did you have that was different?
The funny thing is I agreed with everybody, actually. So when I was asked, they're like, hey, we're going to get, really, I didn't have a choice, so to say. But in general, it was, hey, we're going to get rid of QA. You need to go move to this other thing. And I'm like, what's this other thing? And they're like, oh, it's RPA. And I'm like, why would I do that when doing IT most of my life? I've already done automation, right? I've already built in some of this, same kind of, workloads and process, understanding. However, since I was kind of forced into it, I had to kind of go, dive into the deep end anyway, and really just see like, is it what I thought it was? And it's not, right? It's not just the same thing as IT. It's not in any regards. A lot of the same nuance, a lot of the same programs and platforms are still going to be connected. You're still using APIs. You're still using all the technical side of the house. However, the audit controls, where it's at, really telling the business what's going on, having leadership know, what have you, and what's this and that. Just having the ability to drive some of these smaller processes that normally IT would be like, nah, we don't need to do that. Or, those kind of situations where like you're moving one thing to another. You don't realize how much time it takes in the IT sense, but in the automation side, it doesn't take very long to build an automation just to go run it for you. And so there's a lot of, it's definitely like, it's almost like an agile way of doing IT in a way. So it's coming from the IT side and looking at different ways to do it, and looking with those IT glasses on, putting on that hat, but then also being like, previously like a BA and understanding how projects work and how business, processes work, and how to define them and kind of put them together. That's, I think, really what the special sauce of kind of where I came from to be in this automation field, where I look at it as like, how do we not have maintenance issues? How do we drive this to where we can triage the projects and the processes that we have to ensure that we don't have that same issue again? The basic, versioning of that is like, just like, how do you control like a website, and you go back and you instead of doing the same thing, expecting different results, why not you just like start the bot and say, clear the cache, use the browser, go for the win, and you're going to have less problems, right? So building in those little nuanced, packages or utilities, or just programmatic ways to triage what's going on, so the bot then knows kind of what the process is, and then the bot knows what to do if something else comes up, so the expectation is there, is a huge win.
Excellent. I want to dive into to something that you've written about recently, and I think this is kind of really the topic of the episode. So to start is, if we think about your journey, it started with IT, and it got involved in intelligent automation, probably initially a skeptic, but then bringing that kind of IT and then seeing the agility of these type of technologies together. I think it's been at least a few years now since you've kind of been in a different mindset, let's say, no longer a skeptic, but somebody who can see the value that this type of technology can bring. And believe me, I absolutely see the value that an IT mindset can bring to this technology, even more so over the last kind of 3-4 years.
Yeah.
You post regularly on social, but you did write an article about the autonomous enterprise, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about here. So, what's your vision of what the autonomous enterprise is? What made you think of this? And then let's dig into a few more details about the kind of the topic, and let's use that as the basis for today's episode.
Sure. So just like with all the social media stuff I post, I always make sure to call out who said it first if I'm pulling from something, right? So the idea actually came up. I was like, Horses for Sources actually put out a post. They're like, hey, the autonomous enterprise is the future. I was like, really? Is it? I'm not sure. And I was kind of on the fence for a while. They didn't say how to do it. They just said, hey, it's the future. And I was like, well, maybe it is, right? So I looked at it and saw things coming together. And then, probably like 4 months later, I said, wait a minute. Okay, hold on. It is coming together. We have, with the way that AI is being involved into Gen AI and whatever that future of that comes into, the next acronym we're going to have, the Gen AI side of this with the highly pointed, highly trained models, we're seeing it can handle some of this nuance. It can handle the handling of where things are coming. So when I talk about the autonomous enterprise, the way I like to portray it is like the autonomous enterprise crafts a future where AI-driven prowess meets user-centric brilliance. And so ideally what we want to do is we're taking IT, technology, software, which all of us are developing software. We have for the last like 8 years now. Any company that's out there is developing software, and all this software talk to each other in a way, and they reside on platforms, and those platforms now have more and more over the years, more API connections. Although we have to remember, not all API connections are equally made, but there's still connections there that we have to define and see what happens. Now with automation, and especially intelligent automation and some of the stuff I saw at Forward, even like they're looking at more along the lines of how do we take these automations and the areas of the platforms that don't have APIs, let's go build those in with automation. Let's take the data, serve it up, deliver it to the teams. Now it's in our own database. Now it's actionable data we can utilize. And so that's kind of filling in the holes. It's filling in the gaps. It's like somebody built the road a long time ago and said, here's how business runs. Automation's filling those potholes, fixing it up, and then adding new exit lines and new on ramps to say, here's how we get to the data. And really, the AI side of this is also driving nuanced information. It's like having like augmented reality in your glasses and saying like, I now have more information than I did. I know that, oh, I'm kind of hungry and there's a McDonald's down the way. So the aspect of where things are coming together is the key to the autonomous enterprise. And that means, the autonomous enterprise in general is it's automation, it's Gen AI, it's IoT, it's edge computing, it's cloud architecture. It's how do we bring all that together? Because we already had the Internet of Things. That was a few years back. It didn't quite work out. Our toasters and our refrigerators weren't talking very well together. But overall, what we have now is that's coming back in because we can actually deliver that data. Because the data goes somewhere and we can take it now and we can actually serve it up to actually be ingested, and Gen AI can actually understand the data. So we can actually tell a different story. We can tell a more compelling story and use that. And so all the individuals out there that have, devices on themselves or on their animals or in their shoes can talk to their cell phones, that then talk to our edge servers that then get back to the main systems, and we can do a lot more with it. The hope there is to do more, the healthcare space, right? Like, although I work in life science space and healthcare is close in general, that's a space that I hope to help or drive, because I want to see more people getting the care and service or anything that can take care of them as a community. And that's kind of like my why, is how to help other people do the things that they need to do and how to drive information around that.
Excellent. Loads to unpick in there. I guess where I'll start, it's funny how you get analysts giving you a terminology. You mentioned autonomous enterprise. I recall hyperautomation being another one. And sometimes you kind of get these terms, and like you were with autonomous enterprise, I was with hyperautomation. I'm not entirely sure whether the description that somebody has given me is what really resonates. If this is what you're trying to achieve, then there's probably different ways to be able to describe it, and maybe different things that are part of it in order to make it a reality for me. And as a consultant, you're very open to hearing about these terms all the time, and trying to make sense of them is obviously a key component. So what you were saying about the autonomous enterprise resonated with me around hyper automation. You spoke about kind of fundamental shift, lots of different technologies and capabilities coming together, APIs, synthetic APIs, automation, IoT, all of these things, right? It sounds like the right thing to do. It sounds like the thing that we should be doing. Just because we should doesn't mean that we are or can. And so I'm thinking about the enterprise, and interestingly, just to top it off, I had a great conversation today with another social media superstar, and we were talking about, are people ready for this? And we were talking about that kind of, are you willing to ditch software and only utilize your voice, because your voice and Gen AI is now able to link all of these technologies together? It's like, it feels like, yes, we could do it, but could you imagine now in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years, no longer doing the point and click and reading something? It feels too futuristic right now. Is the enterprise ready for the autonomous enterprise in your view?
Yeah, it's not. It's getting there. I think the autonomous agents are definitely helping out with that. And so when Gen AI brings these autonomous agents in, having those to play specific roles and do specific tasks are going to be key. The other thing is, it's not ready because the technology is moving so fast, but even then our own education system can't keep up with it, right? So it couldn't keep up with our normal standards, and now we're like light speed, moving very quickly. There's no possible way. And so we're going to have some kind of, figure out what that looks like. I have some ideas around what that looks like. I think we need to move back to almost like guilds or people that like the journeyman approach. Like, you have experts out there, take the mentor-mentee approach and build that out, but allow workers to actually work with these individuals and give time to where we can actually scale up, because the only finite resource at this point or in the future could just be us as people. And we live a certain amount of time. And so we have to have people to fill those gaps. And that's just how it's always worked out. So it's an interesting future. It's an interesting thought processes to think about. And that's what I use, like, LinkedIn and social media for, is to put some of that information out there to get insight and work with the community to say, like, what does the future look like? What should we be, dialing into? What do people like myself and Wayne, what do we need to be discussing to help everyone else to know, like, what to do, where to go, and how to do it? But in the terms of the autonomous enterprise, like, it's definitely going to go, like, it's going to happen, right? Businesses, when they finally use automation and they do intelligent automation, and the hyper automation was always, I hated that term. I usually use the term like hyper scaling, because like you're scaling to a point and then you get to that point and then you kind of move forward more, or you maybe go back some. Again, like, it's very agile, right? It's an iterative approach to taking on technology, and automation helps that, because you have the ability to gain that ROI. You have the ability to run things in tandem and then really see the results. And then if you want to click, if you want to jump over to the next rail and say fully automate, great, go for it. If not, and if you don't feel comfortable with it, you can still run in tandem if you really needed to. So there's lots of options, and I do see that there's a future there. I can talk about what I think the next 5-10 years looks like, but I don't know if everybody's ready for it. So.
Well, no, I think it's probably where we maybe go for the next 5-10 years. Because I'm very aware that the challenge we may have is that technology is moving so fast. Funnily enough, you mentioned education. I immediately started thinking about people who are in education right now, and then I recall having there's a great episode of Bots and Beyond with Nancy Gleason, who's a professor in social science and future of work. And she was saying, interestingly, that the student of today is, very ready for the technology revolution, but is the enterprise of today ready to take on a student who is incredibly digital in nature? That's what I was thinking when you said education. The reality was we're currently working with 6 or 7 generations within the workforce simultaneously. First time we've ever done that as a society. And so actually, I think the people who we need to educate are probably those who are, maybe a little bit north of ourselves, who didn't necessarily grow up with mobile phones, yet are still very much in the workforce. And we are working longer, and we are, we're living longer and we're working longer. So actually, from an education perspective, I need to stop looking back and actually start thinking about existing workers, because they're probably going to be the ones who are struggling the most, would you say?
They are, right. So in any company I've worked with, or even talked to other individuals in the space, anybody that's been in a company 10, 20 years, they usually are the ones that sometimes are, hey, we don't want to do that because it's always worked this way. And usually that's also the same area where I say automation comes in. So automation comes in because when you're talking to different people at different companies, you tend to find out everybody says, my company is so totally different. It's a different snowflake. It's a different flower. I'm like, really, is it? We're all using software again. We're on the same kind of backbones, Microsoft, Google, AWS. So in that, really the only difference is like that company's or that business's culture, the company culture, like the actual physical, like business culture. How do they handle things? And culture, what I've seen, doesn't come from the top up. Like, your leadership doesn't say this is the culture, go do this thing. Really, the culture is how the leaders enable their employees to create that culture, really. And so it comes from the employees, it comes from the acceptance of the employees and how they want to drive it. So when you're driving digital transformation throughout an enterprise or throughout an organization or a business, your main goal is to take every single person on that journey that you're working with. Or, hey, I'm going to automate this process. We're going to work together. We're going to understand what your pain points are. We're going to deliver this, and then it becomes automated. And when that person sees, one, that it's automated and they don't have to do it anymore, they're like, wow, this is kind of cool. Secondly, they don't get fired, which is the other best part. They go, wow, I didn't get fired. And then their first reaction is going to be, I saved this much money. I didn't get fired. All the theories and worries are wrong. I'm going to go tell my friends now that work at the same company, hey, you should go automate your stuff, because those reports, those TPS reports from the movie The Office, like nobody wants to do those things. So how do we get them out of the way just so people can enjoy their lives better? And really, people say that and they're like, well, then if people do that, what are they going to do for their jobs? Well, the issue is there's always more work. And the issue is every company grows, 8 to 20% every year. So there's always more work. So there is no need to fire folks. Usually the concept that I lean on, that I've kind of been working with, is like, don't fire, just don't hire. So essentially you're not firing anybody. What you're doing is you don't have to hire as many people, but if you do hire someone, hire the people that are the best candidates to do that job. So you're still hiring. You're just very much more particular, and you're not hiring so-called bodies. Because sometimes what people do in companies is that, oh my God, we can't keep up. We can't manage this expectation, this business concept. So we need to hire 2 to 4 more people. Really? Do you? Or should you be talking to the automation team and saying, how do we make this easier so you don't need 2 to 4? We can still hire probably 1, maybe even 2. But let's go automate some of this so it's not so tedious on you, the workers, and you might actually enjoy your lives a little better. And if we don't have to hire 4 people, maybe you get a raise. So there's always a bonus there.
No, all makes absolute sense. And there is and has been now years and years of, I would say, research and papers and proof that automation in the main does not equal job cuts. And interestingly, the more complex our technology gets, you think about generative AI and even things like intelligent document processing, they're not replacements. They're not 100% automation most of the time. They are tools that augment a knowledge worker. And interestingly, again, a conversation I was having earlier on today, if everybody has the same technology, everybody has access to the same capabilities, what is going to differentiate you versus the competition from a business perspective? It's going to be your people. It's going to be your people. You mentioned culture before. Because if we're on a level playing field from what you can have access to, then as I say, it's going to be people and process, not necessarily technology, because technology now is so accessible everywhere, even SaaS, big business, small business. So it's going to be really interesting in the future how maybe people become even more important, but maybe in different ways and for different reasons. It's not necessarily about getting work done. Maybe it's about creating the right environment, creating those moments of magic for your customers, for your prospects. So again, I think that the future of work is going to be both interesting and different to today, which kind of gets me thinking about where we are now, where you envisage us going in the future, and what are those what are the things what are the gotchas you think that an organization has to be mindful of if they, let's say they see your article, and I'll post it in the show notes, and they're like, we need that. Just like people are saying at the moment with generative AI, we need that. We must have that. Suddenly they see autonomous enterprise, they want it, and they're like, Doug, spill the beans. What do we do?
Yeah, luckily I write at least a good amount of there. I didn't make it too long because it would have been forever long on pages. But on your same points, right? It is going to be the people that's the differentiator. It's going to be the process that are there. Every business knows that as that kind of grows, if you're doing like BPM and those business process mappings, and you're driving the automation around that, and you're able to see what's going on behind the closed doors and every team, and there's no shadow IT going on, all the stuff that we worry about as leaders. But the other thing is every company that diversifies, right? A very diverse company has many different layers of not just bureaucracy, but just like the ability to do more. And when you go to these very large companies that I've been a part of and seen and talked to, those companies are so diverse that with automation and the autonomous enterprise, what that gives them is being able to tap into all those different areas, gives them they can actually start looking at like almost like a first principles approach and saying like, what do we drive? What are we doing? What is the goal? And then what do we need to maybe diversify more just to bring in all the resources that we need, or all the functional matters that we need, or all the things that make up what we do, so that we can deliver that much better product or better service or better, design level thinking to our customers. What does that look like? And so having automation, doing AI, building IoT, bringing this all together gives that cohesion that really, that adds to that like user-centric brilliance, right? So it drives that message. And the people that are involved, once they know that they're not job loss and everything else, like they're part of like the family, so to say, which is something that hasn't happened in business for a very long time, because we moved away from that, after, the industrial age and whatnot. You didn't have a pension anymore, like all that's been moved off. So how do you involve your people to say like, if you stay, we're going to take care of you, you'll make more money than just like the 3% that we all get every year, roughly. You want to make sure that you're helping them just as much as they're helping you, because they become a part of that. So I think that probably should summarize a little bit of kind of what we're talking about.
Excellent. And I'm conscious of time now. This has just been a whirlwind. I have so many other questions that I want to talk to you about, though. I feel it feels amiss to not talk about autonomous agents for anybody who wants to learn a little bit more about those, because you and I are very aligned that an autonomous agent, certainly as part of the autonomous enterprise, is going to be a key component. I guess my final question is, what are the bits that are currently missing, do we think? So we keep talking about technology, capabilities, characteristics. Like, what is missing now to stop the enterprise, the autonomous enterprise from occurring tomorrow? Like, what more do we need to do to make it reality?
Yeah, so I think that goes from like the very beginning of the episode where we talked about like what was Forward 6 like, right? So although I do I pass one of the preferred vendors I use for platform, there's still two other really great ones with Blue Prism and Automation Anywhere out there. But I think the missing piece is we need a platform that can do all the stuff a platform should do. We need to make sure that it can track all these different areas. It can build it all in. It can understand how to keep track of like all the different APIs, all the keys, all the things, and how to bring in the autonomous agents and say like, what are these agents for? Each one has its own goals. Each one has its own like merits and values. Maybe those folks and those employees that have worked with us for 10, 20 years, maybe they have different agents that help them kind of walk through it more, maybe a Socratic method. Maybe it walks them through and says, hey, I know this may be hard or maybe a little different. This is the reason why, and be a little bit more kinder, right? Because, to be clear is to be kind. And sometimes that just helps out with any of us that it takes a lot to change sometimes, and change, although is now a norm and we have to kind of embrace it in a way, not everyone is raised in the same merits. So I think if we have a key platform that does all this, that drives this, and you can kind of see it all, and it's seamless, and there's insights, and there's driving nature, and then you can bring in the actual projects and say like, these are all the projects the company's working on. This is how we track the AI projects and do all that. And then you have, here's all of our automations, and here's where they run and what they run on, and the different teams can talk between one another, and the BPM is talking to that, and you have ways to pull the data on the backside to make sure like, are we doing the right thing? Because maybe the processes that we're still automating aren't as clean as we need to. So we need to redo those. So if we had a massive overhaul, governance, really process driven, very visible recollection of like a platform, I would say almost like, if I had to give an example, like ServiceNow has done a really great example of building a platform. Now, if automation can do the same thing, there would be a huge win. That's what I can give everybody back with.
Superb. Okay, I think that's excellent insight and an opinion as we go and start to think about the future of this, and maybe one of the things I think the intelligent automation industry has struggled with is, what's the end goal? It's like, hey, I've got 20 bots. Yeah, but what's the end goal? Like, where are you? What is it that we are trying to achieve? What is our mission as an industry? And maybe the autonomous enterprise is that kind of end goal that we're all working
towards. Worthy goal, yeah.
Superb. Well, Doug, thank you so much for two reasons. First of all, being an amazing guest, as I knew you would be. But secondly, for being the guinea pig for the live recording on video. Audience, thank you very much for watching. And for those like me who will be listening to this on a run at some point soon, I hope you enjoyed. And we'll see you all on the next episode of Bots and Beyond.